Good morning, folks. It's day one of the Cheltenham Festival. I hope you're excited. It's Josh here from Racing to Profit. Uh, the aim of this video, which I'll try and keep between 7 and 20 minutes, is to quickly flick through the races of interest for me today. As you know, I kind of tend to target the same 13, 14 races each festival, and touch wood, we've had a good run of it so far since I started blogging, 4 decent years, and I will be doing my best to make it a fifth. Yeah, I should stop going on really and jump straight to it. The 250 Vintage Clouds, Chantu Fly, Night of Noir. Where should I jump to first? If I jumped into an expert, I'm going to try and whiz through this. You can take a look at that on GG's. You can absorb it, do what you want with it. There's some horses which have been very consistent on heavy ground. You look at that and think, Josh, you've tipped two horses who have never won on heavy. Yes, yes, yes. But they've placed, and I'm no doubt at all they handle it. Vintage Clouds, you can see there, has actually never finished unplaced on heavy, so touch wood. He jumps around and he gets around, because if he completes and he doesn't make any errors, I really do struggle to see him being out of the top four. But I've been bullish and gone on the nose, as is my want. What else I want to say? Well, yeah, you can look at that. I'm not going to focus on that too much. The other thing I've jumped to is pace, which I think is very important always, certainly in chases and around here. I've spent most of Sunday evening, or however long it took, watching back plenty of, well, all of the festival races from last year, and it was noticeable how many races were won by horses, especially over fences, who were prominent, certainly no further back than the front third, many in the kind of front 3 or 4 just kind of staying there. Noticeable, I suppose, in some of the handicaps, the bigger field handicaps, how it paid to be close to the back. What impact that has and what impact the ground has on pace here will be interesting. Ruby Walsh yesterday said something very insightful, I thought, as he often does when being interviewed by Nick Luck on RUK, about in this ground, jockeys are likely to want to go slower and ensure their horses get home. It won't be a mad dash as such. Therefore, it could come down a bit more to jockeyship, a bit more to tactics when you kick your track position than it may do otherwise. And Ruby Walsh, being one of the best tacticians of his generation when sat on horseback, was evidently relishing the challenge. So, with that little kind of bit of information discussed. So I was just looking at the pace there while trying to think what to say at the same time. Pace, that's what I thought was going to be important. I wondered, as you know, I've tipped Vintage Clouds. Danny Cook is surely going to be aggressive. He just gallops and he stays. He was staying on again in the Welsh National over 30 furlongs, having been hampered at a crucial stage. He is going to be aggressive. He's going to be in the right place. I wonder if he might get an easy lead, because the first few fences he might fire him at, and touch wood he gets over them. And then he might get into a rhythm, and the other jockeys might be thinking he's going too quick, but Danny Cook's a shrewd bugger from the front, as we know. He knows he stays further. He knows he just gallops. He doesn't really have a turn of gears. He tries. He always responds for pressure. In this race last year, he was upsides 3 out on quicker ground than ideal for him. Then they started to get away from him as they turned for home. And then he was probably jumped the second last a bit too quick, but he was staying on again up the hill. He just looks interesting and solid. And will relish conditions and stays further. And I'm hoping he just gallops from the front or near the front and gallops these into the ground. I tried to work out what might take him on. Chantu Fly might be up there, but James Byrne will want to ensure he does get home, so he might just be happy to track. He's got the first time visor on, which is one of the reasons why I was interested in him at kind of 16, 20 to 1. Hopefully, it's evident early on that he's travelling strongly but not doing too much, and he can just track the pace just kind of off the front end. Maybe he'll be kept wide, we'll see. Night of Noir, I'm not quite sure has the experience. I've tipped and I'll touch on him in a moment. I would be surprised if he at this. Well, I'll be surprised if he has if Nick Schofield fires him out the front, given his inexperience. And the fact that he isn't assured to get home in this ground. I'd be surprised also if Vintage Clouds wants to lead, if he's good enough to take him on in the early stages. I'd be surprised if Tom Scudamore is ultra aggressive on their inexperienced chaser in this, but he will probably want to be prominent, and he might want him to have a good sight of his fences and be kept wide. Also, Yarlarenki will try and be up there, but as has happened a few times this season, actually, if something else wants to go on and go past him, Deutsch has been quite happy just to sit off. And in any case, I think his legs will tie up at some point because that was such a hard race that fell apart the last day at Haydock. So that's it. I mean, Cogri can race up there, but I'd be surprised if Bargary fires him. But he might be up there. But I'm hopefully Vintage Clouds might be able to kind of lead these all a merry dance with any of that. So that's him. Shantou Flyer. What do I want to say about him? I'll try and keep this for a couple of minutes on this race. He's just been running well. He's one of those solid been there and done it horses. Well, I say been there and done it. He hasn't proven that he can win over this far in heavy, but he's just solid, and he has very, very, very good Cheltenham form. If I just take a look at his profile here and look at his course form, you can see there he's run 6 times, he's won twice, he's placed in a further 2, he's won over fences here. He just likes it, and he's always staying on again up the hill. His last 3 runs over 21 furlongs, including 2 this season, he has just been staying on, and I've just been waiting for him after kind of those 2 runs there to see if he can run a good race over 3 miles plus at what looks like his favourite track. Heavy ground is no problem. He'll sluice through that. He generally jumps well. He's just a horse in form, running well, and that may be no bad thing siding with that type this week, and certainly those that handle conditions as well. He also does something a bit different. Yes, he's stepping back up in trip. He returns to Cheltenham. He gets the first-time visor. In first-time cheek pieces, he ran his best race for quite a while on January the 1st. The hope is the visor might spark him up again, give him that little bit extra. With James Bowen's excellent £3 claim, he's back to his last winning mark, and he would be a good story, a festival winner for Hobson, a festival winner for the young upcoming James Bowen. And you wouldn't be shocked if he won. I just thought 20 to 1, 16 to 1 was decent, and you can see them after in post-race analysis saying the solid in-form horse loves Cheltenham, loves the hill, has been running as if he wants further, and he gets that today. So I just thought he was worth ignoring my stats for, because I don't think he hits many of them, being a bit more exposed than most winners in this in recent years. But we have heavy ground for the first time in 29 years, and therefore who knows how well the stats may hold up or not. I think it's best and wise to be a bit flexible on that front, as it always is. Vintage Clouds I've kind of touched on. There's a clear pace angle. He's in form. He hasn't run a bad race this year. He ran fairly well in the race last year on quicker ground than ideal. He's only had 6 handicap chase starts. He's run some decent races against some decent enough horses. The yard's in form. He's in form. He's a prominent racer. The ground is ideal. He's yet to finish unplaced on heavy. He just gallops. He just stays. And I just hope, touch wood, that he doesn't unseat or fall, because I can't see him being far away if he completes and doesn't make errors. And on what he's done this season, he's jumped very well on the whole this season, and his jumping has certainly got better this season and in recent runs. I just thought he looked like the galloper in the extreme, and he's going to be a tough nut to crack here, because he will just keep on grinding away, which is, I think, what you may want in these conditions. Night of Noir is a bit of a poke, mainly because he hit the stats, and I thought there's a chance, the stats profile, there's a chance he could go off at quite a big price, and a big price on the machine. Blake had a 25, 26 to 1 winner here earlier in the season. Odds I don't think really matter with his yard. He also has an okay record from a small sample with horses running for him for the first time from other stables. He can ready them after a break, though he needs to prove it with chasers. The horse has run and placed in hurdles at the track before. He's inexperienced and unexposed over fences, like a few in this. Ground is a bit of an unknown. He won a novice on heavy. He ran well and placed on soft. He might not be good enough. His jumping might not hold up, but he's got an interesting profile. He's generally consistent, and I just thought he looked interesting at a big price. And given he was on the stats shortlist, I thought I'd throw half a point at him. I was quite happy taking on the rest. Of interest, I suppose, who I should mention, David Pipe. I just think Ramses, however you say his name, is a bit too short. He's very inexperienced. He's won a Class 4, Class 3 didn't win, although Get on the Jaeger was a decent enough yardstick. Chepstow, Class 3 novice chase. Class 2 there, where you'd like to have seen him maybe win a race like that or get a bit closer. Maybe he would have done, but he hit 2 out. That was in a 4-runner, dotting around. Horses that ran right-handed last time out don't have the greatest record in this race, although that's one of those iffy stats, I suppose. Although maybe some method to that madness. I just thought from what he's done, jumping up to a grade 3 with 18 runners running at Cheltenham for the first time over fences in heavy ground over 25 furlongs up this hill, I didn't think 10 to 1 to 12 to 1 was overly generous. And certainly his profile against the profile of the Pipes winning horse of the last 2 years in this race makes his price look massive and makes me regret even more not backing him on both those occasions. I just thought he's been pottering around in small fields. Yes, Chepstow is all right, but that was a Class 4 novice. It has produced a few winners, novice handicap. He is unexposed. He is in the could be anything category, so I clearly won't fall off my seat. But he's French bred, which they haven't won this in 10 years, have that to prove. Maybe the heavy ground is what will bring them to the fore. He's a 6-year-old. He's fairly inexperienced in this type of race, and it's a big step up in class. I think I wanted kind of 18, 20 to 1 plus, if I'm being honest. And I think he's only that price because of connections. And maybe I'm talking myself relentlessly into why I haven't backed him. He's going to scoot home, which may happen. I'm not going to be too dogmatic about putting you off given his profile, but I wanted something that was a bit more hardy, a bit more battle hardened. And I wanted a bigger price for him. Who else should I mention before I get on to the favourite? Manila Daddy hits my stats. He ran right-handed and at Ascot last time, which isn't a great indicator generally for handicaps at Cheltenham, and certainly not in this race. Heavy ground's a big question. He's handled soft okay. He's generally been kept a decent ground. Heavy ground around here, he can get lazy. He can get a bit too far back. Bowen's in form. It'll be one of those where he'll be kicking yourself if he wins, because he'll be a 20 to 1 winner on a stats shortlist. Oh, which are always painful at the festival. He had ground questions and ability, I think, and just a few too many questions there for me. Cogri, I'm not 100% sure, sees out this trip in heavy, actually. He can clout a fence. He ran okay the last day. I think he's a bit too exposed, and he's had quite a few goes at Class 1 chases, and as yet hasn't done much, but maybe these conditions will see him to the fore. If he gets on the front end and into a rhythm, that will be fairly dangerous. I kind of think Nigel Twiston-Davies might have a decent enough festival. We'll see, because a lot of his horses just keep on galloping. A lot of them tend to like the mud, and they just keep on going and grinding away, given that hill that he trains them up. So a yard to watch. We'll see if that theory works out come the end of the week. Castet, I think, is unexposed. But inexperienced. Stamina's a big question. Another 6-year-old French horse. The ground's a question over this trip. A few too many questions for me. Quite a few of the others are out of form. I don't like backing horses that pulled up last time out in handicaps, really. Generally, I should stop doing that, and certainly at the festival. The likes of Beware the Bear, Single Farm Payment, Victor Touzane, they've just had too many questions for me. And the ground, I think, over this trip for Single Farm Payment, for a horse who can be a bit buzzy, for a yard who aren't in particularly good form. When I looked last night, he was kind of 6, 7 to 1. That was too short for me. I suppose I should finish on Kustar Savola for this race. Nick Williams is in great form. He may dot up, but I'm more than happy to take on at 5 to 1. I'm still to be 100% convinced that he will see out and stay this trip in heavy ground. And if you're backing a horse in a festival handicap at 5 to 1, surely you want to be certain as you can that he will stay 25 furlongs in heavy. I'm not 100% convinced sure he will. That was a piss poor race the last day, really. It seemed to fall apart. Not many. Well, he seemed to be the only horse to run his race, really. He was 6 to 4. He was expected to do that. He had been running as if the step up in this ground at this track would help. I totally get his chance. But the market, he's well found in the market. He's the price he should be. It's not like he should be 7-2, 3-1. He's a 6-year-old. He's French bred. He ran right-handed last time out. I won't put anyone off Sabres, I suppose, but that's a weak way out, isn't it? I'm just going to be happy to take him on. He is unexposed. There could be more to come. He could still be ahead of his mark, but he does really have to prove he stays this. And I'm not 100% sure that run at Cheltenham against Frodon was the run of a horse who wanted further at this track. Unlike Shantou Flyer, who came past him and stayed on to the line, he just kind of went up and down the spot, really, and plodded over it. Maybe that's because they were aiming him at this race. We shall see. And they hadn't gone too hard on him at that point. But I think he's worth taking on the 5s. I might not have mentioned another winner, Amon, however you say that one. The market does guide for Pipe at this festival. This one's inexperienced and I don't think it's going to be good enough. Surely he is not going to be good enough to win this. Famous last words. 007, I don't think will stay in this ground. That's the question for him. Yalarenki was knackered and had a horrible, tough race last time in a race that fell apart. I've touched on horses being out of form. I don't like being with them. Sizen Kadelko is one of them. Although he's had a wind up, he's had a break. Tizard's in good form, but happy to leave Wakanda. Vashende, I don't think is going to like the ground. Victor Tuzane's in horrible form. And I think that's pretty much that race covered. So hopefully Vintage Clouds makes all, gets into a jumping rhythm and just grinds away. And Shantou Flyer won't be hard or too far behind them, and he will be battling, and those two will be miles clear of the rest, battling over the last. And if not, Night of Noir will cause a surprise for everyone, having raced wide on the better ground, jumped the best he's ever jumped, and come from nowhere to win at 50-odd Betfair starting price. We can but dream. That's that race. There's a few number pointers as well, I should say. Let me find my list. Vintage Clouds is top 3 rated on Horse Race Base. GG's is top 4, top rated on Inform. Night of Noir's on there. Shantou Flyer's not. But there we go. So yeah, famous last words. Too many fine judges who I respect like Vintage Clouds, including Nick. I believe Ben Aitken has tipped him as well, having had a look this morning. And a few judges I respect on Twitter have fancied him as well. And Alex Hammond, oh dear. So maybe it's too good to be true. Oh, 17 minutes. I've only been on one race. I apologise. Let's try and be quick for the 450. There were some stats pointers on this. You can see the kind of trends and what's come up. I just thought, if I look on that Instant Expert, Miss Parfois, 1 in the class, 1 at the track. Ground is fine. Clearly the distance is a question for everything in here. Miss Parfois, excuse me, let me have a drink of coffee. She's just a this season's horse. She's just been running well time after time, every time she turns up at the track. She runs like a stayer. She jumps superbly. She's got form over 3 miles and proven winning chase form over 3 miles, which quite a few of these don't actually have. I just thought for the home team, she could provide Anthony Honeyball with a festival winner. Will Biddick is fine. He's won around here before. Over Fence, though, only once. I've got no problems there. I just think she's yet to run a bad race. Black Corton is no bad horse, and that was a tactical affair. I think she might be seen to better effect in this big field. On what they've done, I think she's the best jumper in the race. Touch wood, famous last words. She jumps as well as she has done all season. That will take her an awfully, awfully long way into this race, and actually is why I'm probably prefer her to Sizing Tennessee, who is interesting. Again, stamina unknown like it is for most of these. His jumping can just be a bit iffy, and I think he's got a question on this ground. Like most, I'm a bit more confident that Miss Parfois will handle it. But anyway, she's in form. She showed quite well on the stats. Her course form was a big asset in this, I think, given its inexperience generally. Well, it's amateur riders, obviously a few in here could be pros, the likes of Jamie Codd. And I just thought that was a tick over some of the others that are just ahead of her in the market, actually, some of the Irish Raiders. Jewel at Dawn has chased her home a few times. Again, one of four that showed up on the few stats that I looked at and was kind of a big price, so I thought, why the hell not? Alex Hales is in form. He's chased home this pathway. He runs like a galloper. Whether or not he'll be good enough, but I thought was well worth a go over this trip. I think the ground might be okay, and he might just keep on galloping. Whether or not that will be good enough, we shall see. But he was on the short list of mine from the stats you can see in the blog post, and he was the kind of biggest price of the lot. And I thought, why not throw half a point to find out? Those other ones I should touch on. Jury Duty. I watched that run at Naas, and he was in the lead, and he just tied up after the last and got caught in the shadow of the post. Whether he might not have been 100% fit there, he was 3-1. Maybe this has been the target all season. Who knows? He's been running in some decent races, grade 1s, grade 2s, grade 3s. He clearly has some ability. He ran well at the festival last year. I suppose I just based on those last couple of runs. Well, that last run in particular, I'm not 100% sure he will see this trip out, and you don't want doubts really at 5-6-1 shot. It may transpire that's absolute nonsense, and he'll gallop away. But he certainly is that price because it's Elliott, because it's Cod. He's probably the price he should be. I didn't think it was overly short. He gets first time tongue tie. Clearly, if you fancy him, there's not too much I can say to put you off. He is unexposed. It's his first run here over fences. This is going to be an absolute slog. 3 miles, 8 furlongs, 4 miles in heavy ground around here. My word. He's got a chance. Moss back, bit too inexperienced, fell a couple of runs ago. Again, no track form. I thought was short enough. Might just keep galloping, might just stay on again. But I was happy to kind of take on a 6-year-old as well in 4 miles heavy ground. That would be some performance from him. No comment. I'm not liking the form of the Hobbs yard, but if he stays 9-1 or under, I think he hits my JP stats, does he? Maybe Hobbs is just starting to fire. He did have a winner yesterday. And no comment might be an interesting one. But again, the ground, he hasn't even won over 24 furlongs, certainly not over fences, and he's only had one chase start. That's fairly inexperienced for a race like this. Rathvinden was another one of interest, but again, maybe the price is okay. Not overly generous. Ground is fine. He has stayed 3 miles before. He unseated rider the last day in a decent race. He was brought down before that. He's been running in decent races. Mullins has won this race before. He's in form. This 10-year-old is no forlorn hope. I can see the case. I'd probably fancy him actually above the 2 Gordon Elliott horses' famous last words. So he's interesting. I should just touch on pace. I tick around at 22 minutes. Sizing Tennessee might be up there if his jumping holds. Jewel at John can race prominently. Miss Parfois can race prominently. This is a conditions race. It's always worth looking. There's the speed ratings. You can see those, but it's always worth looking at the OR, the official rating. Clearly, over this distance, anything can happen, and it can make poor horses suddenly look world beaters, tapping into stamina that we didn't know they had. So that's that. I think that's that covered. I've ticked around to 23 minutes. Blimey, I'm going on for longer than I wanted to. I wanted this done in 20, but that's life. Those of you who might enjoy watching it before the first race. Anyway, and we tick around to the 5:30. Oh, this is a headache of a race, isn't it? Pays your money, takes your chance, have a stab. I've gone for, again, 2 inform horses who are just look the top of their game. Testify. I like the fact that he had won in Haydock Heavy twice, and that is heavy. I'm not bothered about the weight. This is a compressed handicap. There's £8 between bottom weight and top, and I've got no problems that he can carry 11.10. In any case, he's a double figure price, and he hasn't proved that he can't. Yes, he's been pottering around in 3-runner, 4-runner races, but he's generally jumped well. He might be even better for this test. I'm hoping Kennedy kind of races him prominently. McCain's in form. It's been the season for Donald McCain's, confirming his resurgence really on a numbers front, winners galore, and it would be wonderful if he could have a festival winner again. And I don't think it's impossible. Well, it's not impossible that he doesn't, and I think this one will add to his tally and kind of put him back on the map at the festival, which would be nice. I just thought he looked interesting. Yeah, I've used the stats again as a guide, although it's not a great stats race really. I just thought at double figure price, an informed horse who's got quite a bit of chase experience compared to some of these with 3 runs and 3 chase wins. And I have no doubts over the ground or his stamina. But until they prove it, you just don't know. The likes of Any Second Now have yet to win a chase. For me, that makes 6-1 too short in a race like this. Yes, he has been running behind graded horses, and if Footbad hacks up his price may contract. There are so many collateral form lines on day one, really, and it'll be worth, and I will do, put some time into looking at the day one winners and placed horses and seeing which horses kind of fit in with various forms throughout the week, and whether or not that points to any horses later in the week. If you want something fun to do with your kind of late afternoon, evening, that wouldn't be a bad little task if you like such things, because that might throw up a few winners as the week progresses. Tycoon Prince fell last time out. I don't like last time out fallers and chases at this meeting. But again, he does have ground to prove, really, and stamina, stepping up in trip. It might be the case this week we actually want horses stepping back in trip, certainly for the first couple of days, rather than stepping up in trip looking for improvement, which would be the case last year. If this was on decent ground, Tycoon Prince, well, he might not fall unless they didn't fall last time out. You would say he's stepping up in trip. He might actually relish the decent ground, having won at Leopardstown on yielding, and suddenly you're going to see a horse transformed. That's the kind of thinking I'd applied to plenty of horses and winners we had last year. That's a bit different from this year, possibly. Who else do I want to touch on? Well, the other tip would be decent. Mr. Whitaker, again, he's just in form, and it was his course form which tipped him over the edge. I thought 8-9-1 was worth a chance. Brian Hughes rides, there is a chance, I look at the pace maps, that they go a bit too fast and he could pick up the pieces provided he doesn't get too far back. I think Connections have maybe said he might be better on better ground, but he won on softer last day. It had been raining, I'm guessing, as you are with a few of these over this distance. I thought he was worth a chance just because he arrives in form. He has chase experience. He hasn't run a bad race over fences. He looked like a proper stayer the last day, and I thought he was worth a go on heavy. At the bottom there, who else do I want to mention? Like I said, I'm happy to take on Any Second Now. Le Rocher is interesting, a bit more battle hardened, but he's been running in small field races, I suppose, like Testify has, in fairness. He does have some course form. He has been hitting a few fences, and he hasn't been the most fluent. Yeah, he was 1 length up mistake and virtually fell 2 out at Exeter. I thought in this big field at the pace they might go, that was a bit of a question, but he ticks the Scudamore angle. He's 18-1. I would be surprised if I don't throw kind of £5 probably at him at Betfair starting price just in case, and he does actually hit some of my stats as well, so I can see why people fancy him at a big price. Demi Sang for JP, he is 0 from 76 in the last 5 years from memory, with handicappers sent off 10-1 or bigger, so I'd probably want to see some market support, but he might be the one to trump those stats. Again, he has stamina to prove. He steps up in trip. Stamina and ground are question marks. First run at the track, but he is a big price, and it's Willie Mullins. I wasn't totally enthusiastic or anything else. Rather Be's interesting, but he's won a couple of weak races, really. And again, stamina on this ground is a big question. Most of his better performances have been on decent ground. That's the question he has to answer. Maybe one for Aintree, again, like he was last year. Deplotting Shed is short enough for me, given he has yet to win a chase as well, and it's his first run at Cheltenham. He steps up in trip again. Yeah, you can get the feeling there. I don't want to be with non-chase winners, really, and if one of them wins, then so be it. I can live with that. The one I will mention is Report to Base, and it'll be the last one I mention as I tick around to half an hour. Brilliant. He hasn't done much wrong, I suppose, but he won at Hereford. I'm only mentioning him because he's prominent on my stats and the stats that I used, although half the field seems to be prominent on those, if not more. It's probably easy to focus on the horses that don't hit them. I mean, he hasn't done much wrong. He's in form, but it's small field form. He's been going Hereford. It's his first run here over fences. He has run well at the track before, at least. He does have stamina to prove. He has heavy ground to prove, and the form of the yard is a bit off-putting, as you can see there, as well as the second start in a handicap. I can see the case and why some might be interested at bigger prices, but I just wondered if he'd be good enough, and if this test would be a bit too much for him, and the yard are a bit out of form. So that's it for day one. For the 3 races I've tipped in, I haven't gone with any Irish horses, Irish trained horses today. Ooh, we shall see if that proves to be an error come about 5:40. But there we go. They're the 3 races I've covered. They're the 3, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 horses I've gone with. I'm pretty confident most of them are, well, all of them actually, are in form, have been running well, and are generally proven in heavy. Well, bar Night of Noir, Jewel of Jawnism, but I think they'll be fine. Nor's Mr. Whittaker, actually, having said that. But proven in soft, if nothing else. But generally, I have stuck with a basic formula, I suppose. Yes, they've generally been prominent on my stats, but they're generally in-form horses who have got form at the course, who have won kind of in soft and placed and run well on heavy, who I'm pretty assured will stay. Certainly for those that have got 1 point or 2 points on them. And that's that really. We shall see if that approach pays dividends, and the yards are also in form. And in general, they are prominent racers, and none of them should be held up right out the back, touch wood. So that's 32 minutes. I'll tick round there. I might do another quick video on any of the other races, but I don't really have any strong thoughts on those, and they aren't my strong point. So that's that. If you've watched it and got to this far, I hope you found something in there useful. And yeah, until tomorrow, this is Josh saying thanks for watching. Bye for now, and best of luck. We'll need it.